Very welcome along to the Matchbook Football Podcast after possibly the greatest international break of all time. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined by Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke. And Adrian, I'm not being dramatic. I think it probably was the greatest couple of days ever. Troy Parrott's probably the favourite for the Ballon d'Or. I haven't checked the odds yet.
I was chuffed for you guys. I was. I was ribbing you about who's Troy Parrott. So it was great to see so many listeners come for me online. Love that. And I mean, I love the Troy Parrott International Airport meme. And there's a great photo, isn't there, of him on his tiptoes, stretching like a ballerina to sort of toe poke that ball in. It's absolutely brilliant. A work of art, really. So, yeah, great moment for you guys. But it's a shame that the Scots sort of outshone you in the end.
Well, you said it's the meme, the Dublin Airport. It's not. It's the official Dublin Airport account, which is now known as Troy Parrott International Airport, and rightly so. And you mentioned also the ballerina pose. That's going to be Ireland's new football crest for the coming playoffs. No more of the shamrock that we've gone to in recent years. Don't even like the new crest, Mark. But Mark, you've actually followed Ireland home and away for years through the bad times. I mean, we sat together for the Bulgaria Nations League game in March. Had a bit of hope, to be fair to us, but I don't know about you. I lost all of it, if not at Armenia away, the Hungary game. And there's so many opportunities for Ireland not to qualify there or qualify for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Jaime even said himself after the Armenia game, we've got no chance. We've screwed ourselves, and it felt that way. And to be from where we were in September, which was completely and utterly rock bottom, the Armenia game was definitely probably one of the worst games I've ever seen Ireland play. I was there in Cyprus when they lost 5-2, and the Armenia game felt worse than that, in all honesty. But to sort of fast forward to two months and see Portugal beaten, and rightfully beaten. It wasn't anything to do around a red card. Ireland were the better team on the day. That was a huge pick-me-up moment. And I guess when the dust settled, we all realised we still had to go and win in Hungary. So it was still very, very unlikely. But what a match, what a performance. I didn't see it coming. I went there with sort of hope rather than expectation. And yeah, suddenly we've got heroes, we've got hope, we've got memories for life. And it's something that the Irish football team needed hugely. It's been a long time since we've had that kind of pick-me-up moment, but to have two in the space of a few days, and the beauty of it, Troy Parrott may not have even started if Evan Ferguson was fit and available for this international break. So an incredible storyline, and memories we'll cherish for life.
Indeed. Here. Troy Parrott, I think, with 5 goals this campaign. At Evan Ferguson, off the top of my head, with 3. I've been banging on about these guys on the podcast, Adrian. You haven't been listening. But as
Look,
Adrian,
you're not at the World Cup yet. Just so you know, just so you're aware, you're not actually there yet, like Scotland and England. Yeah.
I was getting a bit of hate from Scottish fans.
We probably won't qualify, and that's absolutely fine. I've had English mates telling me the whole time, you've not qualified for the World Cup. Why are you getting so excited? It's like, this is what it's like. We've been so starved of success for so long. You got to cling on to anything. But the belief's back, the hope's back, and for a country like Ireland, it's well needed.
They just don't get it. Mark, we are talking this week, and look, every week, in fairness to you, Mark, in particular, and Adrian as well, we talk about betting, betting bank in terms of picking out selections, being, discipline. Not all weeks are going to be winning weeks. This week marks Safer Gambling Week in the UK and Ireland. And like every year, we don't necessarily want to go through and obviously point in the direction of all the tools. But Mark, I wanted to give listeners and viewers a bit of insight into how you personally stay in control of your gambling throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important to remember that betting, gambling should be treated as a form of entertainment. Only a very small percentage of punters will make money long-term gambling. So, it's very important, as you say, to stay in control. Don't go chasing any losses. Only bet what you can afford to lose. That's a very important part. Set clear limits and implement a staking plan. You'll have your own betting bank. And if you can implement a staking plan, you can stay in control of where things are going. Unfortunately, there's no quick route to the rich house. It's a proper grind. There are ups and there's many, many downs along the way too. So you've got to accept variance, try not to be over emotional, take breaks whenever needed. And if you are struggling, as you say, there's heaps of responsible gambling tools out there in the industry these days, which can help, always worth having a helping hand. I should say, I'm always happy to help out any Matchbook podcast listener as well. So feel free to reach out for any advice or help, and I'll do my best. But it's a fun industry, but it can be absolutely brutal at times too. So if you're not enjoying what you're doing, if you're struggling to sort of accept any recent losses, that's your cue to take a break. That's your cue to almost stop altogether if needs be. This is supposed to be fun, enjoyable, and hopefully we can snag a few winners along the way too.
No, fair play, Mark. Here for that as well. And as I said, full T's and C, or full advice in terms of those available tools are available on safergambling.co.uk, but also available on matchbook.com/our responsible gambling page. And we've got 4 cracking games: Arsenal versus Spurs, Burnley, Chelsea, Newcastle City, and Leeds versus Villa. Arsenal versus Spurs, Adrian, we'll start with you. I'm actually heading to the North London Derby on Sunday, absolutely buzzing, hopefully get to meet you guys beforehand as well. But this game, I mean, we were just talking off air, it all comes down to Thomas Frank and how he sets his Spurs team up. And if he sets them up defensively, this is going to be a tough game for us.
Well, it could be. Yeah, I mean, look, if Arsenal score early on, it could be a difficult afternoon for Tottenham. My gut feeling is that Thomas Frank will try and sort of spoil the game and play pretty pragmatically, which is kind of what he's done really in general since taking over. Spurs are better without the ball. They are harder to break down, but they're not very creative. They're not creating very many chances. You wouldn't say that any of their forwards, maybe apart from Kudus, have really caught fire yet either. Haven't found that flow, have they, that they maybe used to have under Postecoglou and some other managers. So there's definitely work to do. And I think he knows that. And he knows how good Arsenal are. And I would suspect it'll be a little bit like the pre-season game. Not many people would have seen that. It is only a friendly. It was over in Hong Kong. But Spurs did win that game 1-0. And they made it a bit of a war. And it was very, very scrappy. And they concentrated on disrupting Arsenal's flow and being really sort of hostile in their approach. So I kind of envisage a game like that again. Bottom line, I think, guys, is that Arsenal are a much better team than Spurs, and they really should be winning this game. Spurs have lost 7 of the last 9 Premier League games against Arsenal. Arsenal have scored in each of their last 26 home derbies against Spurs. They've scored at least twice in each of the last 8. So Arsenal do have a really good, strong record in this fixture at Emirates Stadium. And even, some of the injuries aren't back, and it's real disappointment that Gabriel Magalhaes is going to miss the game through injury. That's a real choker, I must admit. But even so, I think Arsenal are absolutely worthy favourites here. Look, they've only conceded 1 goal this season at home in all comps. That was the Erling Haaland counter-attack. So I think you've got to be backing Arsenal here, really. So I'm going to, and I'm going to go with under 3.5, because I do see it as a game where Spurs will try and spoil it. And these derbies, even though this has been a very high-scoring derby down the years, I just got a feeling that this one will be a little bit tetchy and a little bit scrappy. Spurs are better away. That has to be said. And I'm sure Mark will talk about that. Really good record on the road this season. Some impressive wins on the road, but they've only actually faced one top half side away from North London, and that was City. And they did go and beat them. But it feels like they're a bit of a bogey team, doesn't it, for Manchester City? So what I would say about Spurs' away record is that the sample size is very small against the better teams in the division. So Arsenal to win an under 3.5 goals would be my selection, 2.15. If you want to chuck in a little bit of a narrative led pick, obviously I don't think Martin Odegaard's going to be back for this game, so I would expect Eberechi Chiesa to play. And even though he's had mixed reviews, I've liked by and large what I've seen from Eze. I think he's had some great moments. If you think he might score against Spurs, obviously the club he snubbed for a move to the better half of North London, then that that takes that little bet builder to 6.0. So Arsenal under 3.5 and Eze to score any time would be 6.0.
Okay, yeah, more on that bet in just a second. Mark, I'm guessing with your selection here that you're going a little bit against Adrian in that you expect Spurs to come out, or do you expect a fast start from Arsenal and Spurs maybe have to change their style of play? There's a lot of ways that both teams to score can land, obviously.
Probably more the latter, although what I would say is Thomas Frank, with his Brentford team, often went away to bigger teams, bigger opposition, and were able to get on the score sheet, cause problems. They scored, of course, at Arsenal last season, home and away, drew 1-1 at the Emirates, Brentford. So I think they'll sense there's an opportunity to do something here. I did quite enjoy the panic stations on social media following Arsenal's draw with Sunderland. You can tell it's been 20 odd years since you guys last won the title, but because there was a lot of worry about how that game sort of unfolded in the end. But on a serious note, I thought Arsenal were the better team for long periods, as you have been for most matches this season. But variance just decided that was the game that was going to end the clean sheet run. So, based on the raw data of that game, my numbers said Arsenal win it 75% of the time. But they've had an international break to sort of digest that draw. Now the small matter of Spurs. And as Adrian says, they've got a very good record against Tottenham, 1 defeat in 32 home games now against Tottenham. So I don't expect them to lose by any sense, but the international break wasn't kind. Still plenty of injuries and concerns in the camp. Gabriel, the obvious one. Calafiori should be okay, but picked up a knock with Italy. Sounds like Timber could be a doubt for Sunday, though. So suddenly that rock-solid, settled backline will be broken up this weekend by at least one player, possibly two. And that defence that's kept 7 clean sheets in 8 home outings across all comps, kept 7 clean sheets in 11 Premier League games this season, might be slightly more susceptible on Sunday. So I'm willing to have a crack at that BTTS price. There's not much liquidity on Matchbook right now, but it's trading around evens. You probably will be able to get that 2.05 on both teams to score. And yeah, just like kind of London buses, Arsenal conceded at Sunderland. I'm going to back them to do so again here on Sunday. So, I have made it clear many times too on the show that I've not been overly impressed by Tottenham under Thomas Frank. I appreciate he's trying to rebuild the attack and injuries haven't helped, but he's now used 14 different attacking combinations in 18 matches. And I guess it's no surprise they've looked a little bit off key at times, but that away record, I think, does command respect. The performance of Man City was exceptional. Brighton is the only other tough away trip they've had. But so, yeah, the schedule hasn't been overly difficult, but they have got the joint most points away, the joint most goals, the fewest goals conceded. And the club has a habit of coming to Emirates Stadium, not often getting results, but giving it a decent go. And both teams have scored in 13 of the last 15 derbies at the Emirates. It's a fixture that has tended to produce goals. And it's one of those games which can catch fire, where form can almost go out the window a little bit. Gabriel's absence is a big plus for Spurs. Without him, Arsenal's set-piece strengths will dip a little bit. They've already managed 10 goals from set-pieces, excluding penalties. Spurs have conceded the fewest. Whilst Arsenal, fully deserve to be short-priced favourites, I'm kind of happy to take a chance on an odds against price of both teams to score. Atletico could and probably should have scored. Man City did. Olympiacos had chances. And Spurs have scored at least twice in 6 of their 7 away games this season. So, 2.05, both teams to score. Why not?
Okay, we'll lock that in for Mark's selection 2.05. And for the Matchbook podcast Bet Builder Money Back Special, Adrian, I'm just going to add basically going to affect. The lads can agree on in terms of a third leg, and I wanted to basically give the listeners the best chance of a bet that one of the guys fancy. So we're going to lock in Eze anytime into Adrian's Bet Builder treble. So it's £10 money back's a free bet if it loses. You just need to back the following bet on Matchbook Betting Exchange. Arsenal to win, Eze to score anytime, and under 4.5 goals. We're going to lock in, just to be safe, 4.6 though. So still very value there. Full T's and C's available on insights.matchbook.com. And sticking with you, Adrian, Burnley versus Chelsea is your game of choice. What's the angle into this one?
Opposing Burnley, really. I think that they've had a pretty respectable start to the season. They've stayed in games, haven't they? They've done, I think, better than expected. But I just sense that it's beginning to turn a little bit for them, and that ultimately they will slide back into that drop zone where most people kind of assume that they would be. I got to see obviously Arsenal up against Burnley and Sunderland sort of back to back, and chalk and cheese really, but and more so in sort of Sunderland didn't accept their fate. Sunderland fought hard and believed that they could score goals against Arsenal and get something from the game. Burnley, it was just damage limitation. They didn't even try really until the last 15 minutes to do anything. And I wasn't very impressed with them, I've got to say. And, you know, Jayden Ante really has been the only sort of shining light in forward areas, I'd say. So, yeah, I don't fancy Burnley to do well this season. I don't fancy them at home to a Chelsea team that are going okay, aren't they, at the moment? You've got to say that win at Spurs was impressive. They've, you know, been doing pretty well on the road of late as well, Chelsea. I'm really enjoying Garnacho's come in, and he's not one of my favourite sort of personalities in the Premier League. He's quite an irritating player, really, in a lot of ways. But he is good on his day. He's excellent, and his numbers are terrific in terms of creating quality chances for Chelsea. The same for Estevao, actually. Obviously, the whiz kid from Brazil. He's an exciting player, and yeah, I just sense that Chelsea are finding a nice groove. That all of Chelsea's wins against bottom half sides so far this season have been by at least 2 goals, and that's where I'm coming from. I'm going to back Chelsea -1.25 at 2.16. I tinkered with Chelsea and under 4.5, which you could go down, but I actually just think that they can win this game by 2. So for a full stakes win, that's what we'll need. But I think Chelsea are more than capable of it. But Burnley's numbers are absolutely dreadful. Burnley have got the fewest shots, the lowest XG, the lowest possession. They've faced the most shots, the highest expected goals against. Since Opta started their records, no team has ever been the worst in all of those categories at the same time. So, yeah, I just feel like it's going to come back and get them soon, Burnley. Kickoff times. I know there are people out there that enjoy these little quirky stats, but Chelsea love a 12:30. Just so as you know, they've won 7 in a row, kicking off at lunchtime on a Saturday. So that's one to consider. And Burnley have lost all their games against the top 8, apart from Sunderland, where they did really well, actually. They've lost to all of the others. And Chelsea are actually the last ones of the top 8, the current top 8, that they haven't played. So, yeah, I just fancy Chelsea to win with a bit of a distance by at least 2 goals here. It's something that they're used to doing against Burnley. Historically, they have a great record. They've won on their last 6 visits to Turf Moor. And scored at least 3 goals in the last 5 visits as well. So, yeah, all in all, I think Chelsea win this comfortably. So Chelsea -1.25, 216.
Okay, you can back that on the Asian handicap on Matchbook. Mark, I presume you take no satisfaction with Adrian's anti-Burnley case there, given Scott Parker's in charge?
No, not at all. No. Clean slate and all that. Yeah, I mean, from after there were moments at the start of the season when you thought perhaps there's going to be a different side to Burnley, but they are slipping back into the same old sort of show, really. It's 4 defeats in the last 6. They've conceded twice more in 5 of those. And Adrian read out a load of negative stats, which they are currently ranking bottom for. They're also bottom by a distance on expected points. They've allowed a league high 3.13 big chances per game. They've lost the expected goals battle in 9 of 11, shots in the box count in 9 of 11, corner count in 10 of 11. Yeah, when you return that sort of data, you're going to struggle. And they've shown glimpses of what they're capable of. But I think after that West Ham game before the break, Scott Parker blamed the defeat on a lack of focus and concentration after taking the lead, which isn't really ideal when you're in a relegation battle, scrapping for points and a bit of a 6-pointer against a fellow struggler. But yeah, I think there's no doubt Martin Dubravka overperformed between the sticks between August and October. Perhaps things are starting to reverse back. But, you know, I should say this, I know Adrian's talking about kickoff times, but I put in my notes here, but an early kickoff away from home immediately after the international break, it's not normally a spot where I'd be sort of considering a team around about 1.55 to win. If anything, I'd perhaps be trying to find an underdog-based bet here, but it's very difficult trying to get Burnley on side. I know they held Liverpool for the majority of that match and were beaten at the end. But as you say, they were played off the park by Arsenal for a good hour or so, not that long ago either. So, yeah, Chelsea up in third, back-to-back league wins without conceding a goal away from home. João Pedro scoring in both. Estevao continues to impress. Yeah, they were dominant against Wolves as well, but they really came alive when Esteval came on, created a goal almost instantly, and he's really impressed with Brazil during the break as well. So he'll be really up for it. But yeah, last season Chelsea won 5 of 7 trips to the bottom end of the table. This season they're 4 from 4 against teams in 15th and below. They scored 13 goals in those 4 games. So you have to have them on side in some way or form. And the way I'm going to play it, Chelsea to win and Chelsea to win the most corners. That combination pays 2.3. Chelsea have won 4 or more corners in all bar 1 Premier League match. They've won 5 or more in 10 of 11. Also, they average 6.45. Burnley giving up 6.55 per game. They've faced at least 4 in 10 of 11, 5 or more in 9 of 11. Arsenal, Leeds, Forest, Liverpool have all won at least 5 corners at Turf Moor this season. Chelsea have hit 5 or more in 4 or 5 away. As I said earlier, Burnley have lost the corner count in 10 of 11 matches this season. And that's because they're forcing just 2.73 per game themselves. At Turf Moor, their corner totals 1-1, 4-1, 4. They are bottom for possession, averaging 39%. Chelsea second in that metric, averaging 60%. So, don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out you have more ball possession and more territory, you're probably going to win more corners. So I kind of like that combination. As I say, boost that price from 155 on Chelsea to win to 2.3. So Chelsea to win and Chelsea most corners.
Okay, locking that in, 2.3 as Mark says. So 2 ways to attack that angle, both the lads being pro Chelsea in what is typically a trappy game, that 12:30 after an international break, but we will see. Move on to Newcastle versus Manchester City, and Mark, will stick with you on this one. This feels like a massive game for Newcastle United because they've done pretty well in the Champions League, but the Premier League results aren't there at the moment, and pressure is going to come on Eddie Howe.
Yeah, I think pressure is already on Eddie Howe. I've struggled a bit with this game, in all honesty. We've got Newcastle at home in an evening game, match taking place immediately after an international break. That's not an ideal place for an away team, regardless of Newcastle's recent form. And City are 2.04 here. Liverpool were 2.35 in August. Arsenal were 2.26 when coming here in September. Both won, but both obviously required goals deep into stoppage time. So on that evidence, I'm pushed a little bit towards Newcastle. However, their record when hosting top 2 teams under Eddie Howe reads 2 wins, 1 draw, 6 defeats, following those Arsenal and Liverpool losses. By all means, take out that Liverpool loss because they haven't been the second best team in the league this season. So it's 2-1-5. Both victories were against Arsenal in previous seasons. They've also won just once in 35 Premier League matches with Man City, which is astonishingly bad head-to-head record. And Eddie Howe's never won against Man City as a manager. So, there's negatives there. And yeah, if we go back to the odds, Man City haven't been odds against at St. James's Park in any of their last 11 trips here. In all of those matches, they've been sub 1.7. So that's a big difference. I just think Newcastle's fluctuations between kind of being all in at St. James's Park and being so flat away makes them kind of difficult to decipher a little bit, difficult to read. Because if Joel Linton is recovered and if he can refine his form, if the midfield can sort of come together, they're capable of sort of monstering any opposition team. So Dan Burn is suspended, but I think he's been a bit of a liability for a while there at left back. Lewis Hall can come in, and that's a decent replacement. I know Nick Pope had concussion. His form's been a bit iffy without him. Aaron Ramsdale gets a chance. So I do expect a response from Newcastle, who have taken the lead and lost their last 2 league games. They've drawn 2 of the last 3 when welcoming City, losing to a stoppage time goal in the other. So they have been close to getting decent results here against City. And I think that's where I'm probably most comfortable landing here, actually, is somewhere in the middle. I was therefore sort of back in the draw at just shy of 3-1, 3.9. It is the outsider of the 3. City are clearly coming back to something resembling their best. That performance against Liverpool was quite a statement. However, the record on the road still remains a little bit patchy, as it was last season, where they won just once at the top 9. This season, they were nullified in that defeat at Villa, lost control in the second half of Brighton, were very good at Arsenal, but I think Arteta made a few strange selection calls that day, which aided them. It'd be interesting if they adopt the same approach here as they did against Liverpool, where they had 3 attacking midfielders playing quite narrow and asking the 2 fullbacks to offer the width and pushing high. It worked really well. Nico O'Reilly was outstanding. Doku, of course, was outrageous. And when you've Haaland doing Haaland things, you've always got a great opportunity to win. But they are the most likely winners, as the market suggests. But odds around evens feels probably fair enough to me. They are 188 when losing at Villa. I didn't really fancy them at that price. Away at Newcastle, off an international break in an evening game, I can kind of pass them up at this price, knowing the levels that Newcastle can reach here in big games when the crowd's behind them in the evening. So yeah, I will settle on the draw. Bit of a sit on the fence, but I wouldn't put anyone off cards either. By the way, Sam Barrett is refereeing here. He is very cardy, 4 or more in every game this season, 4 or more in 77% of his 30 league games going back to the start of last season, 5 or more in 53% of those. And if you look at the last 10 meetings between these two teams at St. James's, 9 of those 10 have featured between 3 and 8 cards, the 8 coming in last season's meeting. So yeah, it tends to be quite tetchy. So looking forward to this one, but yeah, I've settled on the draw.
Okay, and Adrian, pick that up maybe on City's approach here. Does that sort of set up the game for us?
Yeah, I was super impressed with them against Liverpool. I think as most people must have been, really. Doku was unreal, wasn't he? And obviously Haaland's now got 14 in 11. Cherky is contributing, a lot of big chances in terms of creativity. So yeah, it's all working really well. Nico O'Reilly, I think, has improved them. I mean, it's quite something that he's keeping Ryan Aït-Nouri out of the team with a degree of comfort, given how much they spent on him. So yeah, look, they're in a good place, Manchester City. But as Mark says, this is a toughie. St. James' Park is never a gimme, and these are the kind of games that Eddie Howe gets them up for, aren't they? Underneath the lights, it will be pretty raucous, but they're also under pressure, and we don't know who's going to be fit to play. There are a few absentees. No Gordon, I think, could be quite big for them. And you shouldn't really forget that Newcastle haven't beaten anyone, currently above 15th. So haven't beaten anyone of note yet this season. So that's a problem when you're facing an informed Manchester City team. So I can't get on board with Newcastle because of that form line or the history. Eddie Howe has a really, really bad record against Manchester City. Played 18, won none, drawn 2, lost 16. It's the most a manager's faced an opponent in a competition without ever winning. So Eddie Howe doesn't like this fixture. So I like Man City double chance for that reason, because I think that they can absolutely go there and at least get a draw. That said, that form on the road is patchy, as Mark said. They haven't beaten anyone away from the Etihad above 12th, and that was Brentford. Hard fought 1-0 win there. So yeah, you can't. I'm not going to go all in on City here, but yeah, Man City double chance is a bit of a fudge, I would say. But I would like to pair it with both teams to score, because I do think that Newcastle always have a goal in them, particularly at St. James's Park. Really like Voltemada. I like the wingers, whoever they're going to be. Guimaraes always often turns up in these big games as well. And both teams to score has landed in 5 of the last 6 matches for Newcastle. City almost always score. And you wouldn't say that City are super watertight, would you? Even though they're definitely improving. I think you always get a chance, really, against Manchester City these days. So, yeah, I could see Newcastle scoring, but Man City avoiding defeat for sure. So, yeah, I'm going with both teams to score and Man City double chance. It's a 1.96 shot.
Okay, fascinating game ahead there. That's Saturday, 5:30. We'll move to Sunday, the game before the North London Derby, 2 o'clock Sunday, Leeds versus Aston Villa. And Mark, I mean, Aston Villa, are they where they should be now? Because this has been such a phenomenal turnaround. Because even watching games in that run, I tuned in to Go Ahead Eagles away. I know they'd made changes. And I was talking to a few Villa fans about this. They were absolutely brutal. So they still have that maybe inconsistency, but they're turning it around in the Premier League for sure.
Yeah, how sustainable is that turnaround? That's my question. I'm not so sure it's been massively sustainable. So I'm going to oppose them, actually, Leeds. I'll get that out of the way straight away. I'll start with Leeds because 4 defeats in 5, it looks like a good time to sort of probably fade Leeds. They've been dragged back into that bottom 6 scrap. They've conceded multiple goals in 5 of the last 6. They've scored just 4 in those most recent 5 games. So problems in both boxes that require addressing. And there was quite a lot of talk before the international break about money coming in for Daniel Farke to be the next manager to leave his post, which may feel a bit harsh, a bit sudden. But because I felt they've been a little bit unlucky this season, or perhaps they're just missing the sort of top level quality required in sort of key areas, especially up front, to get big results over the line. But what has been quite noticeable, I think, is their sort of chalk and cheese nature between home and away performances. I guess like Newcastle to a certain degree, it can be well illustrated by the raw results, actually. Just 1 defeat and 5 at Ellen Road, 5 defeats and 6 away from home. That one home defeat was against Spurs, where they were much the better team. They also conceded late on against Bournemouth to deny them a solid home win when they're the better team. They also held Newcastle here too. So they have been quite well tested at Ellen Road and have still tended to produce pretty solid efforts. So yeah, as I say, I'm going to back them to get something out of this match against Villa. I appreciate that might surprise a few people, but I think these stats might surprise people too, because Leeds have conceded the fewest big chances in the Premier League this season at home, just 3. Only Bournemouth and Arsenal have faced fewer shots in the box at home, and only Bournemouth and Arsenal have conceded a lower XG figure at home this season. Leeds have actually won the expected goal battle in all 5 Ellen Road matches this season as well. So that's more than enough encouragement for me to have them on side as relatively big underdogs here. I know Villa are unbeaten against promoted teams under Unai Emery's charge, but they have also failed to win at odds of 2-1 or shorter in 10 of the last 13 away games. So they aren't regularly beating the sides they should win against. And as the market is fancying to do so this weekend, I think there's an opportunity to fade them. So yeah, this season they've already lost at odds of 3.0 or shorter. Not lost or failed to win at Sunderland, Everton and Brentford. And yeah, there's a small wrinkle I still need to sort of fix with Villa right now, because we know their data is way below expectations. They're second bottom on expected points, second bottom on XG generated, second bottom on big chances created. And as I say, I don't think that is sustainable. They're struggling in terms of sort of creating chances and scoring freely. They've only managed 13 goals in 11 games. That's been boosted by the 4 they got against Bournemouth before the break. But of those 13 goals, 7 have been scored from outside the penalty area. That isn't sustainable. All 3 of their away goals have come from outside the penalty box as well. So I think there's enough there for me to oppose Aston Villa. So Leeds plus a quarter of goal. That makes you money should they avoid defeat. That was going to be my selection, but I've gone into the bet builder. I'm not expecting a shootout here. The market is heavily favouring unders, and that's normally a positive if you're keen to support an underdog. Fewer goals means more chance of a potential upset. So yeah, I'll back Leeds double chance and under 3.5 goals at even money, which does appeal. You get the 0-0, the 1-1, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 and 2-1. All on side. Leeds home games are averaging 2.06 non-penalty expected goals. Villa's away games 1.9, hence under 2.5 goals being a 1.75 shot here. So yeah, I think Leeds can get something out of a tight game.
Okay, and Adrian, your agreement in terms of the under angle here?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. I think neither side's really got a striker in form, have they? Ollie Watkins is sort of on a bit of a drought, hasn't he? Gasson doesn't really hit the ground running. Others are chipping in, but yeah, they're not firing on all cylinders in attack. I think that's fair to say. And Leeds, I just don't think they really have a top class centre forward. You know, they're reliant on sort of spreading the goals around, aren't they? So yeah, I think that's definitely a negative. 9 of Villa's 11 matches this season have finished under 3.5 goals. 4 of those 5 games at Ellen Road, you know, all full-blooded, all good contests. 4 of those 5 finished under 3.5 goals as well. So I am going to join Mark in tipping that up. Also, you've got to say, for all of Mark's reservations about Villa, and I totally get that, have been solid. You know, they have not been opened up really too much this season. In 9 of their 11 games, they've either kept a clean sheet or let in 1 goal. So they're not easy to break down. And of course, obviously, they've won 5 of their last 6. So they'll go there feeling confident. So I'm not going to go in on Leeds like Mark. I think that Villa could get a result here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pair under 3.5 goals with under 4.5 cards. So yeah, Mark likes this kind of one, I'm sure. Rob Jones, I looked at the ref, and it's Rob Jones. Rob Jones happens to be one of the most lenient referees in the country. He's given the fewest number of fouls per game. He's only blown up 17.8 times per game, which is the lowest. And in terms of yellow cards, he averages 2.5 per game this season. So he's only behind Craig Pawson and Michael Oliver, as the two sort of least card happy officials in the league this season. He's even ahead of Anthony Taylor. He hasn't given out 5 cards since May. That's a run of 9 matches where he's gone 4, 3, 2, 1 or 0 on the card count. And then you look at the two teams, Leeds and Villa. Leeds, they're really disciplined, actually. Leeds only average 1.45 cards a game. Villa, 1.8 cards a game. So, yeah, I like under 4.5 cards and the under 3.5 goals. Slightly shorter, it's 1.87, but definitely still backable if you're not sure who's going to win the game.
Okay, that is our Premier League card done. Insights.matchable.com. Full recap of the guys' picks. We're moving on to any other bets now. Mark, you have 2 selections here, so take it away on both.
Yeah, the first takes place on Wednesday night, actually, so not much time between recording and kickoff, or the early hours of Thursday morning. But it's a great game to look forward to if you are staying up on Wednesday evening, because it's the biggest derby in Brazilian football. Fluminense facing off against Flamengo at the Maracanã. Always a very special occasion, always a very feisty occasion too. Hoping this match will sort of follow those traditions, because there's plenty on the line for both teams this midweek. Fluminense start the night in 7th. They are aiming for a top 5 finish, which gains them automatic qualification to the Copa Libertadores group stages, which is South America's Champions League. 6th and 7th are at the qualification stage, whilst 8th misses out entirely. So there's a lot for them to play for from a Fluminense perspective, as well as the obvious carrot of putting a big thorn in Flamengo's title aspirations, because Flamengo are top of the table, 3 points clear of Palmeiras as we enter the final 5 match days. So yeah, for both teams, this is a match of real importance. Chuck in the derby nature too, and I think cards could hopefully be on the agenda. So I'm going to take both teams to be carded in the first half at 1.9. This wager has won in 16 of the last 19 head-to-heads between these two teams. And if you look at the last 20 matches between these two in league football, the fixture average is about 70 booking points. The referee is Davi de Oliveira Lacerda. He's only averaging around 48 booking points per game through his 29 assignments this season. However, this is his first Flamengo derby, and he will be tested. This is also his biggest assignment by an absolute country mile. He's not even covered a Copa Libertadores or Sudamericana match before, so he is quite green. He's going into a really big occasion, and I'm quite happy to follow the long-term trends at close to even money. It should be a great contest. Both teams to be booked in the first half is 1.9. And then in Belgium, I'm looking at Genk against Mechelen. 54% of games in Belgium's top flight this season have seen both sides score, and these two teams lead the rankings in terms of BTDS. So I'm going to follow a kind of Adrian Clarke classic of both teams to score and unders, but I'm taking under 5.5 goals here instead of under 4.5. So BTDS and under 5.5 pays 1.86. That's a nice price, I think, to cheer on. Just 1 point separates these two teams. They're both in the top half of the table. Both top the charts in terms of how often they get on the score sheet. Both sides have failed to score just once in their 14 league fixtures. However, they've managed just 4 clean sheets between them. They've got BTDS hit rates of 12 from 14 and 11 from 14. So 86% and 79% overall. Only 2 of their combined 28 matches have featured 5 goals or more, and none of those matches have featured 6 goals or more either. So the unders option gives the price a nice little boost there. The non-penalty expected goals averages involving these sides, 2.7, and just shy of 5 big chances per game as well, around 27.5 shots per match for both teams, more than 9 shots on target per game. All really encouraging numbers. My goals model suggests there's value in BTDS down to about 1.53. The market makes it about a 161, 165 shot at the minute. So the inclusion of unders just gives it a really nice boost into a backable territory and price. So yeah, both teams to score under 5.5 goals between Genk and Mechelen at 186.
Okay, those 2 selections there for Mark. And again, insights.matchable.com if you want to recap. Adrian, you got 2 picks here, starting with Leicester versus Stoke in the Championship. Under 2.5 goals have been good to you this season.
Mark is muted. There you go.
There you go again.
There you go. I don't know how it muted. Yes, I like. I'm going for simple unders and overs picks here from the EFL. The first one is a sort of standout for unders really in the Championship. It's Leicester City entertaining Stoke City. Stoke have the best defensive record certainly in the Championship, only letting 10 this season. incredibly well organised by Mark Robbins, who's done a really, really good job there. They've not conceded a goal in the first half in 12 of their 15 games, which really shows you how they set their stall out, Stoke City. It's like clean sheet mentality, and then we'll pick you off and try to score a goal. And that's what they've done in a lot of their matches, a lot of narrow wins for Stoke. 6 of Stoke's last 8 matches have gone under 2.5 goals. And their away games only average 1.88 goals per game. So Stoke on the road aren't always that exciting, but they're really hard to break down. And look, they're facing a Leicester team that's not in great nick. Yeah, they did get a really important win before the international break, which was great for them, but they lack a striker, a little bit like the 2 teams we mentioned before, Leeds and Villa, lacking a striker in form. And that's, that always leans me towards unders. They're certainly still under pressure. And at home, the fans are hating them, really. I'm sure the atmosphere will be okay this time around because there's been a long gap, but it wasn't long ago where it was very, very toxic at the end of a match at the King Power. They've scored 61% of their goals away from home, Leicester. So they've not really found their groove on home turf at all. Matches at the King Power Stadium have averaged 1.86, so very low. And 6 of their 7 home games have gone under 2.5. So you wrap it all up. You look at the history of both teams this season. This does scream low scoring. So under 2.5, it's 1.83. Opposite is really the situation in my next pick, where I'm going to go over 2.5 goals. It's Swindon against Grimsby. 2 managers, well, 2 of the top scorers in League Two, first and foremost. Got excellent attacks, good individuals that are all in decent form, getting chances, scoring goals. Lots of good individuals to get excited about. Ian Holloway at Swindon and Dave Artell at Grimsby are attacking managers. They want to play to win. And I think that's what will happen in this match. Both teams have scored in 13 of 16 games. So that bodes well for the pick, that, they're both used to scoring. And neither are particularly watertight, if I'm honest. Like both are conceding more than a goal a game, quite a bit more than a goal a game. So, yeah, I was looking at the averages, and Grimsby games average 3.13. Swindon games average 3, which is very, very high, as you might expect. No team has more games that go over 2.5 goals than Swindon. Happens in 69% of their games. And 5 of Grimsby's 8 on the road have gone over. So you sort of wrap all that up again in terms of the data, and you think, well, yeah, this should be a fun game where both teams play to win, play to their strengths, which are definitely in forward areas. And let's see what happens. Grimsby have also got their goalie suspended, but he's been having a bit of a stinker, the Grimsby goalkeeper. So that might be a blessing for them. We'll have to wait and see. So I don't know who's going to win, but I do think there'll be goals. Swindon v Grimsby over 2.5, 1.8.
Yeah, great title race development in League Two. 5 points between those two sides, 10th versus first. Mark, Serie A 0-0 draw. This is
what's this, the 90s?
Yeah. It feels like that. And I guess 17th versus 19th suggests you're probably onto something.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the Premier League is winding the clock back, isn't it, to play sort of direct football with a focus on set pieces. And Serie A saying, well, okay, we can wind the clock back as well, because it's gone back to the early 90s. Catenaccio is back. It's been a pretty dull start to this new season. There is a title race, but most games across the league have been pretty tough to watch for the most part. The league's goals per game figure this season has dropped right down to 2.22. 59% of overall matches have gone under 2.5 goals. 35% have seen under 1.5 goals. And we've had 17 goalless draws already. That's 15.5% of the total matches in Italy's top flight, ending 0-0. Now, 6 of those 17 goalless draws have involved either Hellas Verona or Parma. And they meet each other in the early kickoff on Sunday, with winter sort of starting to set in across Europe. It's going to be pretty cold in Verona on Sunday morning. We've got 2 shot-shy sides facing off against each other in an early season 6-pointer, if you like. So, yeah, I'm happy to put up the correct score, 0-0 at 7.8 on the Matchbook Exchange. These 2 teams have scored 13 goals between them in 22 combined league matches. They have failed to score in 12 of those matches. Each team has failed to score in 6 of their opening 11 games. Both sides have been involved in 3 0-0 draws in those 11 games respectively. Small samples, but that's around 28%. And their last meeting back in March ended 0-0. So at 7.8, the market is saying there has a 12% chance of success this weekend in terms of the 0-0 draw, which is below the seasonal average for Serie A this season, despite these two teams being really key contributors to that 0-0 tally. So, yeah, I think it's worth a wee interest at 7.8, 0-0.
6 out of the 7 draws, and so nil-all draws associating those two teams is some stat. Adrian, we're back to the goals here with Derby, and both teams have scored versus Watford. So interesting in this case here.
Yeah, I really like this one. I'm quite surprised at Derby's price. Derby are very backable ahead of this game, because Watford are bottom of the away table. They've been the worst away side, haven't won yet. Got 3 draws. They are getting better. They've got a new manager, or an old manager's come back, and Javi Gracia. But they're facing a Derby team away who have won 5 in a row. And Derby are very much odds against to win the game. So that immediately caught my eye, and I thought, well, how can I turn this into a long shot? They've got Carlton Morris, formerly of Luton, of course, who's really enjoying himself. He's got 10. He's the joint leader scorer in the Championship at the moment. So yeah, these are good times at Derby. Fans are starting to believe in. Well, I think they have belief in John Eustace anyway, but they're starting to believe that even though they're sort of mid-table at the minute, they can maybe look to aim a little bit higher. So I definitely want Derby on side. 5 wins in a row, playing the worst away side. I definitely want that, and I want to pair it with both teams to score. Derby have scored in 13 of 15 this season, so much more exciting than they used to be. But they've only kept 3 clean sheets. So Derby have always been a sort of defensive side for the last few years, but this time around, not so much so. And at home, failed to keep a clean sheet in 6 of 8 at Pride Park. And you know what? I think they're a good team. I mean, you look at, they've lost 4 games, Derby, this season, and 3 of those defeats have come against the top 4. So I think that there may be ones to watch. I'm not saying they're going to get promoted or anything, but in a wide open Championship season, they could go top half. As for Watford, they do score goals. They almost always score. They've scored in 8 of their last 9 matches, home or away, but they can't keep clean sheets. They got one at home to Borough recently, you remember, when they won 3-0. That was it for them this season, just the one, which means they haven't shut anyone out on the road yet. So I think that both teams can score here, but you have to side with Derby. So you wrap it up, 5.3 is the price. So 2-1, 3-1. Any one of those, 2-1, 3-1, even more, 3-2. 5.3 is the price.
Okay, 5.3. We'll lock that in as Adrian's long shot and move on to best bets, Mark. And I've pronounced this wrong here already. La Liga. There's goals in La Liga. Both teams to score is around even money here, so take it away.
Yeah, Celta Vigo. They've done me proud on this podcast a few times this season, so I'm not going to desert them now. It's now 2.04 on Matchbook Exchange that both sides score when Celta go away to Alaves on Saturday. That's a price I'm very happy to attack. Celta played out a brilliant 4-2 defeat against Barcelona before the break, meaning they've now seen both teams score in each of the last 11 league games following an opening day defeat to Getafe. Alaves aren't as goal heavy. However, they do put extra focus on their home fixtures in Vitoria. They tend to release the shackles a bit, have a right good go at opposition teams. They've gone 3 wins, 2 draws, just the 1 home defeat this season. And they've scored in 5 of those 6, yet they have only managed 2 clean sheets all season. 5 of 6 at Mendes La Rosa have seen both sides score. And with Celta in town, that is a price that really appeals again, 2.04. Because if you look at Celta's road record since the start of last season, it's a 24-game sample. Celta have scored in 22 of those 24 matches, which is absolutely remarkable for a team that's not Barcelona, Real Madrid or Atletico. They just have a great tendency to turn up and score goals. The issue is they've only kept 3 clean sheets in that same sample. So 19 of those 24 matches have seen both sides score. That's 79%. And yeah, if you look back to last season, just as an example of what Celtic give you when they go away from home, they were involved in 3-2 and 4-3 defeats away at Real Madrid and Barcelona. They don't care who you are. They're going to go there and play, try and score goals and entertain. So, yeah, it gives you an idea of what this team is like and how they approach matches. So 2.04 odds against for this. We see both teams to score again. Really appeals. Alaves versus Celta on Saturday.
Okay, and similar price for you, Adrian, for your best bet, Brighton versus Brentford.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 2.05 is my selection. It's Brighton against Brentford. I'm going to say both teams will score, and it will be under 4.5 goals. Obviously, it gets the 1-1 onside, the 2-2. It gets the 2-1 either way, the 3-1 either way. I do like this as a general selection, and it feels right for this game for a number of reasons. If we start with the unders, under 4.5 goals, both teams have only breached that barrier once in the first 11 matches. So they've been involved in lower scoring matches by and large, even though a lot of them have ended with 3 goals. Brighton at home, nothing's gone over 4.5. Brentford away, nothing's gone over 4.5. So I'm hoping that's going to continue here. As for the both teams to score angle, it lands a lot for both. Hurtsela is fairly attack minded, maybe slightly less so than before, but his teams very rarely keep clean sheets. Brighton, in general, since they've been in the Premier League, they've been the both teams to score kings, haven't they? And Keith Andrews' Brentford are kind of similar. They're maybe not as pragmatic as they used to be. They're trying to be a bit bolder. They got Igor Thiago's, second behind Haaland in the race for the Golden Boot, and you got Schade, the pace of him. And they do offer a goal threat, but I don't feel that they're that solid, Brentford, particularly on the road. So yeah, 7-11 of their games, both teams to score has landed. And they've scored the Bees in 4 of their 5 away matches so far. And I think they can absolutely score. The Seagulls, it's the league high. 73% of their games have seen both teams to score come in. It's landed in 4 of the 5 home games as well, where they've notched at least twice in 4 matches as well. So Brighton are used to scoring on home turf. They've got a good informed striker themselves, haven't they? In Danny Welbeck, who, by the way, is the most clinical of all the strikers that have scored, at least sort of 3 goals this season. His conversion rate is off the scale good. It's even better than Haaland. So, keep your eye on Welbeck and Thiago maybe getting on the score sheet here. Don't know who's going to win, but hopefully that won't matter if this pick comes in.
Okay, both teams are scoring under 4.5 goals, 2.05. If you can take 2 seconds, hit that like button wherever you're watching or listening, be much appreciated. Helps us continue making these shows. And insights.matchwell.com, full recap of the guys' picks with Sabre Gambling Week. But we do say usually at the end of every show, make sure betting enhances that enjoyment, but please do so responsibly. And we'll be back covering Champions League next week as the club football scene takes charge between now and Christmas. My thanks once again to Mark and Adrian. We'll be back on Monday. Bye-bye.